Good morning, everyone. This is Debbie Wetzler, and today I am coming to you from Asheville, North Carolina. I'm visiting my sister. She lives here, but there is a woman here named Julianne Inman, and some of you saw her at Envision with an incredible testimonial. She had blood sugar level issues, and her face was real puffy and red, and it was horrible. And she found ASEA, and it turned her around completely. So I think her pictures are pretty well known, and she's, I'm sure, on a healthy self. Anyway, this is the Ascent Training, and it feels like now we're going to have to play. If you haven't succeeded in becoming bronze, we're going to have to go be a Tom Brady, whether you like him or not. He's an incredible athlete that can turn a game around and bring it back completely in the final minutes of the game. So we have a couple more weeks to go before the qualifications for Envision are due, and you do have to be a bronze with 2 points and have enrolled somebody with 500 points in order to even be invited. And to be invited, at least you can come, and you do have to pay your way at that point, but a lot of time, well, I think it's definitely worth it. I have to pay my way to go, and it's just something that is an incredible training because you're there with all the leaders, basically. Everybody there is a leader, or they wouldn't be there. And the ideas, and this started, way back when I first got, we were having bronze base camp and stuff like that. That's what we used to have. And just going there and hearing how the other leaders were doing things and what was happening, and just getting to know them and becoming friends with them, and being able to use them on calls or hear some of their calls at different things. Just that wisdom alone was invaluable, and helps you with your business so much. And it's a really great way to grow. So if there's any way, and a lot of you on here I know are already bronze, and I know you've been invited at least, so that's a great thing. But if you've got team members or anybody else who might have given up by now, I was just talking to somebody doing a 3-way phone call, and he hadn't quite made bronze, but he has 500 points of enrollments and stuff, and so he's pushing for it because he's got a lot of stuff going right now. So, there's always a way for you to become a bronze. You've still got 2 weeks. Even if you're just starting, people have gone bronze in 2 weeks' time. It's an amazing feat, I will have to say that, but it can be done. So I'm going to start just by asking, does anybody have any questions about anything before I get started about any kind of training or anything? Okay. I just like to leave it open in case, because, there might be, I don't see too many new people on, but anyway. All right. Well, I think I'd like to go over, I know there's been people who have, they keep telling me that they've run out of people and they don't know what to do. And, they supposedly have gone through everybody. I'm sure I haven't gone through all my warm market yet, but because I was just talking to people who I said, did you ever figure out what I do? And they said, no, I have no idea what you actually really do. And they had been friends of mine for a long, long time. And, you think people know what you're doing, but, a lot of times they don't. And they were just very intrigued. And so they want more information now, which I found to be amazing. And I've known these people for, 30 years. So don't forget to go back and just, if you're talking to your older friends, the people that have known you for a long time, just ask them, just say, I've started this business, or I've, started working, and I'm working with this incredible technology. Do you really know what I do? And most of them, I think, would say no, unless you've, done a presentation. Because, that was my bad. I just didn't realize that they didn't know, because I thought I talked about it to them at one point at a party.
How do you question, Debbie?
Yes.
How do you answer their question?
Oh, how did I answer it?
When they ask you, what do you really do? How do you answer their question?
Well, I try not to say, again, you know, well, I might be a redox expert in their mind now, but most of the time to my friends, I was not a redox expert. So I try not to say too much. But to them, I said, well, I worked with this incredible technology, and I luckily had Beverly Trapnell with me. We were at LA Fitness. And so she was my three-way, basically. So it was right there. So I just said, I work with this incredible technology that's 10 to 15 years ahead of its time, and we haven't seen a health issue yet that this really hasn't helped. And it's called redox signaling molecules. And then I just had Bev, and I said, I'll let Bev explain it to you. And she did it, you know, for me, because they didn't know who Bev was, and she wasn't an expert. So I did the three-way right then. And I let her just explain a little bit about it, since we were standing right there, about what they did for the body. And they're like, wow, that's incredible. And I said, well, let me just send you, I can send you a video that will explain it, and I can call you back. She said, it sounds like we'd like to try it at least. So I had a built-in three-way right then. Otherwise, I would have asked them for their, made sure I had their email address and that kind of thing, sent a video over, and then I told them I would be calling them with somebody who could answer all their questions. I was trying, you know, to give a bigger vision. I'll just put it that way. They assume at this point that I could answer all their questions. So, you know, it's a matter of taking each meeting kind of separately. So I've been doing this for 8 years, and they know that, or 9 years. So I don't want to act dumb about it, but I want somebody else to give them a bigger vision. And I also want to always train people, because if you're training them, I mean, you might be the greatest, if you want to call it salesperson, or the greatest presenter in the world, or educator, and you can get people signed up and in. But you are doing your team then a great disservice by not teaching them to do a three-way, and you know, a three-way or another presentation, because they may not have that personality, and then they're not going to be able to duplicate what you're doing. And so if you are training people always to do a three-way, you know, because they'll look at you and they'll say, I think I want to share this. Now, how do I do it? And I say, just like I did it for you. I piqued your interest. I got you on the phone with, and at the time it was always Cindy Buck. And I answered your questions, or I gave you more information. And I sent you a tool, a video, basically. So I'm always training people to do it the correct way. I haven't seen too many people who haven't done three-ways have success. I can tell you Trish Winkler, the top earner, had Alan Noble on the phone for a full month solidly when she first got started. Like, he couldn't do hardly anything else with all the three-ways he did for her. So if you want to learn from the top earner, make sure you're doing three-ways. And if you're a little nervous about them, get over it and just start doing them, because it's very easy. I mean, it's the easiest thing you can do. I introduce you to Buffy, and Buffy to my person, then I don't say anything. I let them do all the work. It's great. So, and the more you guys do it with each other also, I mean, you can always use your upline diamond or something like that, but you guys are all great too. I mean, Benita, you know, all the, Connie, you've all been in for quite some time. You know exactly what this product does, and you're very good at three-way phone calls. So I always try to pair my team up a little bit and get them to do three-way phone calls with each other, because that just helps them get better and better also. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. I mean, you just can't say, it's fine if they need more information. Not like you failed. I don't get yes every time at all. So that's one way, but you know, there's my daughter just joined another networking group. There seems to be a ton of them in Denver. But if you're looking, you can just look up networks and stuff. There's all kinds of groups out there now. BNI is not the only thing out there. She did pay for hers, but they had a lot of references and stuff to all kinds of people. So the owner of that networking group has already introduced her to several naturopaths and chiropractors and stuff, and they're all interested. So there's that. I know people have jumped onto Shaper again and started looking and connecting with people. There's all kinds of things out there now that you can do to meet people. And there's LinkedIn. Sylvie Wilmot's been doing a fabulous job with that. That's where she's gotten a lot of her people. And she had a big team at Envision. They all came from France and Switzerland and Belgium. And they were all at Envision. So she's done very well. And she got a lot of them from LinkedIn. And it doesn't take any more time, except that you're typing a lot of times instead of talking to begin with, until you can get somebody else's information. And when you do that, you can, when you can finally hook up, you can ask for their phone numbers, and then it may be a little bit easier. But it's just building relationships, with people online, basically. So there's all kinds of ways to meet new people. Now, that may not be the fastest. I mean, if you're trying to still make it for Envision, for Ascent, I'm sorry, you can, I would go back to the people that you know and, ask them if they've, just reintroduce it if you haven't done that again, and just really start going back to the people that you already know, if you're trying in the next 2 weeks, because they're the ones that you already have a relationship with. They're the ones who would probably trust you, and may just not understand what you're doing quite yet. So I would really go back to and have your team. I'd follow up with your team. I would look on the leaderboard. I would see if there are people in your team who are getting close, and maybe reach out and really start helping them. Because if you do that, guess what? All those points, if they go bronze, are going to roll up to you, and that's going to help you get more on your way or get you there. So by helping others, as we always say, you're going to help yourself. So I might look at your teams also to see who's getting close, and just say, let's really do a concentrated effort for the next 2 weeks. It's the 18th. So what do you have? 10 more days. It's a short month. So you have 10 more days. Let's really see what we can do. And if you did this with 1 or 2 or 3 people, you'd be working a lot. But if you got 3 more people to Ascent, that would be wonderful on your team. And think of all the points that you're creating.
And Debbie, do you know what the price tag is on that? If they don't reach the 5th place where the resort's paid for, do you know what the price tag is on this event?
No, because we haven't been allowed to sign up until I think it's March 4th. We get to sign up. I think it's somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000.
Okay.
I know that's what it was last year. So I think they kind of keep it in the same price range.
Deb, do you know, good morning. Do you know if it's possible to go in early, a couple of days early, and reserve that? Do they allow that for people who are coming as an option through ASEA, or?
I don't know if they do it through ASEA. If you're getting it paid for, I think you have the option to add on. And I think you just, I think you normally just go through the resort, but ASEA might do that if you're getting something paid for, actually.
Yeah, who would we contact for that?
I think they send us a letter.
Yeah, they'll send you. Go ahead, Russell.
I think my understanding is that we're all going to get a letter. The folks that are being invited will get an email saying, okay, you want to go here. Here's how.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
And events usually takes care of it. So it's Misty Lindsay and Kim Marie Larson and stuff like that. They usually take care of it. So if it doesn't say so in the letter, it usually does. It says if you want to extend, before or after, contact us or contact they'll tell you what to do. They should.
Okay.
That's what they've always done.
All right. Perfect.
If not, you can email. It's events@ASEAglobal.com.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
I think too, pointing towards bronze, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Deb, the last week of February is bunched up, and there's a little, if you look at your upcoming PV, it's actually kind of like higher than it normally would because they take the last, because the month is shorter or something. So
Right.
there's a little pump of PV that would have gone into the next week that goes into the last week of February that might be of, might help.
Yeah, February is always a great month to have things end on because they take, February's only got 28 days. So they take the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st auto ships and all dump it into the 28th. So usually the last week of February is really a good week. The larger the organization is, the more you get dumped on in a good way. And so, yeah, if you look at that projected auto ship for that last week, it's easily higher. Mine's a lot higher than it normally is, just because that's what February is. So, and that, I don't know, that tends to carry over. Usually the last week of the month is a better week for most people because those auto ships kind of continue like that. Anyway, so you may look to see if that's something that you wouldn't be bronze by the end of the 28th. This is the 28th fall.
So I have a question about inviting people, and we talk about building relationships, whether it be online or in person.
Uh-huh.
If you're like me, you have a box of cards that you have no idea who they are, and I'm just so curious. What if you pick up a card and have no recollection who it is from your past, and do you call them, and how do you engage that conversation?
Well, it's funny. Pearl has 2 bags of them, I think. She's debating what to do with. I know Bobby Martin did that. I've done it a couple of times. I call them and just say, if they answer, so for one thing, you can get rid of the card. I mean, because sometimes people change their cell phones and or their emails or something like that. But if they answer, you just say, hi, my name's Russell Johnson, and I've been going through my office and cleaning it up, and I came across your card. And I don't remember where I met you, but I know I would have not had your card if I hadn't been impressed with you.
There you go. There you go. That's it. That's it. Thank you.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Well,
Write that
it's just a great way to give them a compliment because it's true. I don't ask for cards unless I'm impressed with the person, or they have something that I'd like to look into eventually. And then, of course, what do you do with cards when you go home? You go right on your dresser, then you forget who they are. That's why one of the things I always tell my team, if you're making cards, put your picture on it. Then people remember who you are. I always love that. And so my picture's on mine, and mine's a joke card because I've made mine. I couldn't find a picture of me, and I was going to convention last year, and the only picture I was finding was 20 years old, and it was late at night, and I was like, okay, I don't even care. I sent in my 20-year-old picture. So now when I show it to people, I go, Renew 28 works really well.
I have an idea along those lines. I'm a paper and pencil gal. I take their business card and I use notebook paper. I tape it to the top. I write, the date when I met them and what the conversation was about. And it's an easy way for me, because I am paper and pencil, to keep track of who they are and where we are in the process. And I know Jeannie does a lot of this too, but she doesn't hold my cards.
That's right. Pearl, did you hear that?
Going forward, that's a great idea, but I have these boxes of cards.
So that would, I have been doing the very thing. Every night before I go to bed, I go through a few of them, and I'm, condensing them down into a book, Debbie. I have them in a book. And the conversation, as I start to make these phone calls, I'm going to say, one of the things I'm going to say to people is that you've been in my life in the past, and I'm calling to find out if you're meant to be in my life in the future.
That's going to scare some people.
Well, if it scares them, then I don't want them in. A
I'm
curiosity.
teasing, of course.
It's a curiosity thing, because you have to have something that you can go through these cards with some rate of efficiency. Because
Right.
when you're me, there's an obnoxious amount of them, and
Yeah.
I don't have time to be, having a major conversation with each person. And like you said, a lot of them are going to be dead end phone calls. But just to do that and throw them away if they're dead end, and you can tell by a person's response to your hello whether you want them in your life or not.
Right.
Much.
Right. I mean, it's a quick way to go through them. I can, I don't want to be discouraging or anything. I know Bobby Martin went back and called 300 cards in a month. I don't think anybody came of it. And he openly was talking about this on the charge up call. So, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. That doesn't, you've got 1/300 chance to get somebody in your organization who could be another Trish Winkler or something. You have no idea.
And it's good to get it done.
Been, Pearl? Sorry. Hi, everybody. I was just curious what your success rate's been, Pearl.
Oh, I haven't even started making the phone
Okay.
calls. I'm just sorting through and getting them all in a book and out of the boxes. So I'm at that stage, Callie. And hello.
And what was that? You were in my life in the past, and I'm calling to see if you are meant to be in my life in the future.
Meant to be.
Okay. Good one. I love it.
And Russell, you started to say something?
I was just going to say, even if no one came of it, I at least I'll stop smoking the hopium pipe with this box of
that's great.
Get it out of the way and move on, and it's fresh energy. It's really good. Yeah.
And get rid of the cards.
Yeah, exactly.
And nature abhors vacuum. When we clear a space in our life,
yep.
Somebody
new comes in. Absolutely.
Bob Proctor says if you want a new couch, get rid of the old one.
That's right. That can apply to a lot of things. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's a great way to clean out. I mean, one of the things in feng shui and everything else, if you're moving energy, you want to clean up your office and keep it nice so the energy flows through it and stuff. If you've got a bunch of cards and junk around like I do right now, it stagnates your business, that's for sure. So so that's a really good thing, and it would be kind of fun, I think, to call some of them. And if you just did, you probably have time for 5 phone calls a day, because some of them are just going to be dead ends, and then you can throw the card away. Number's not valid anymore or something. So if you've been collecting cards, that might be a really good way to, a good New Year's goal to get rid of your cards this year. And I'm saying that because I'm talking to myself. So that would be a very good goal for me this year.
I have a quote from a long ago from Julie Andrews, and it's about discipline. Some people consider discipline a chore, and her quote is that she perceives discipline as it sets her free to fly. Something about discipline setting her free to fly. So for me, having the discipline each night before I go to bed to make sure I work through this pile of cards a little and sift and sort and organize, it's a sense of feeling like I'm moving forward and clearing my space. So just a little bit every day has been discipline that I've been working with, and it feels really good to know that I'm doing something to move forward before I go to bed at night.
Mm-hmm. There's an organization that I was part of years ago. It's called Fly Lady. She was a fly fisherman, but she started helping people organize their lives. And she sells a little timer, like old school button timer, and it only times up to 15 minutes. And the timer on it says, or the verbiage on it says, you can do anything for 15 minutes a day. And so the idea was, at least once a day, set the timer for 15 minutes and focus on an area in your house that has clutter or something that you want to do. And, we all have 15 minutes. So even if you set aside 15 minutes for one phone call, that's a start too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the idea is neat, and it's not overwhelming for someone who has angst of trying something new.
Hey Buffy, how long ago were you in the Fly Lady thing? Because I was in that too.
Oh gosh.
It was 20, it was years, and I still have that timer, and it still works, and I hardly ever have to put batteries in. I have a cord around my neck. I just hang it around my neck so I can take it from place to place. And
yeah. I do as well. It's great, and it's fun because you can use it in any application of your life. But the timer itself is very, very helpful too. But yeah, maybe 2005.
Oh yeah.
So,
oh.
yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, a long time ago. She always wanted you to have a shiny sink every day. You were supposed to make sure you had a shiny sink. That's pretty cool.
And just so you know, in case you guys forget, your smartphone is a timer also.
Oh yes.
So you can set your smartphone for any time.
Yeah.
15 minutes and stuff like that. But I remembered this guy was just overwhelmed. This house was beautiful. It was a beautiful house, but it was completely disorganized. And so I just made the suggestion. I said, why don't you just take like one drawer a day and take it, dump it out, only put the things that you really need back in it, and then throw away the rest or whatever, or move them to where they're supposed to be. You still should have seen the look on his face. He was overwhelmed even thinking about doing that. So anyway, but that's like your 15-minute plan. You know, you can do a drawer and then eventually get to on top of the desk and all this other kind of stuff. So you can do that if your house is starting to look like mine.
I really like that 15-minute thing. And what comes to my mind is I can also do anything for 90 days. So I love the idea of doing or 30 days, whatever one, or 2 weeks, I guess. But for me, I like 90 days. So I love the idea that I can do anything for 15 minutes for 90 days.
For 90 days, sure. Yeah.
And that will definitely get some results.
That's a great idea, Russell. I like that.
And I wouldn't even say, I mean, to me, it wouldn't even be overwhelming to say I could do 15 minutes every day for the rest of my life. I mean, that's not overwhelming because that's only 15 minutes. If I'd apply that to exercise, it would be great. So again, it's cutting things into fractions. So again, I'm just going to make the suggestion, because like I said, a lot of you, I think, have already been invited. But look at your teams if you haven't already, and help them and give them 30 minutes a day to do pound out phone calls with them. Just block out 30 minutes and just say, I'll sit and make phone calls with you for 30 minutes. Let's just start calling. Start making your list of people that you've contacted or people that you have wanted to contact, and I'll be here with you. And you can either do it in person if you live close to them, or you can also do it through Zoom. You can make a phone call while you're watching each other because you're there for them. And you can be on the phone also. I can't even tell you, I was doing Zoom's training and stuff like that, and I said, oh, here's a 3-way phone call. I guess I better end. And they go, oh, no, could we listen to you do the 3-way? So it ended up being a training thing, too. So just to be there for people would be a really good thing, I think, for your team, because some of them are just nervous and afraid still.
I had a person call yesterday, Debbie, and asked me if I could do some 3-ways. She's a cross-line person in Boise, Idaho. Mm-hmm. She said, do some 3-ways. I said, sure, I'm sitting in a parking lot in the shade of a tree. Let's do it. So she called, and she called a chiropractor, and she hesitated all over the place. The woman didn't answer, so she's leaving a message, and she was so hesitant. She was umming all over herself on this message with this woman. So we hung up the phone, and I took a picture of the Hale book from Envision, the little Cliff Note version of how we use our language and our bodies and our that. And I called her right back, and I said, do you realize how much hesitation was in that message with that chiropractor? And she says, well, I always feel a little intimidated when there's someone, what the heck did she call that woman? Superior or something like that. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's nothing superior about that woman. She just has a few more letters behind her name. So the next phone call you make, look in the mirror and know that the message you have to share is as important as any other message that the person you're leaving the message for, might have to leave with the world. So don't you ever put yourself in a position where somebody else might be more superior than you are. And
Right.
the next way call she made was a polar opposite switch of energy. I said,
Yep.
put pillows or stuffed animals on the couch and put the names of these people you're doing these follow-up calls with on those stuffed animals or pillows, and present to those pillows with an energy of knowing that what you have to say is changing the world and it's important and they deserve to hear it. And the next phone call she made was bam, different. So she said she stood up in the front of the mirror and did her superwoman posture before she made that next phone call.
Mm-hmm.
It was graphic. So listen to yourselves and take those ums and hesitations out of those messages and step in there with your power when you make those calls, so those people feel your power instead of feeling your hesitation.
Yep.
It was graphic.
Sound like Wonder Woman. That does physiological things to your body.
Right.
You become more powerful.
Right.
Buffy, you were going to ask a question, though.
Yeah. You said that you actually turned that Zoom three-way call into a training. Is there any chance you recorded that and you still have that in your archive somewhere? Was it like ages ago?
Yeah, it was a while ago. I mean, it was a few months ago. It just so happens I book a lot of three-ways, of course, and then they called and I said, okay, it's time for me to do my three-way. I'll end it, because I'd already told them, and they said, oh, can't we listen? So no, I mean, but that's another thing, definitely that could be done. I mean, you could do that. I mean, I guess, well, you're doing I was doing an actual three-way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if I told the people. I don't think I mentioned that I was on a Zoom also, that they were listening.
Right. I think
you'd have to be careful they weren't going into anything personal.
Yeah, I think processing through it, after the fact, if we end up signing that person up with the person, if we go back and just say, I happen to record my own calls so I can go back and learn from that experience, but because you enrolled, would I have your permission to actually share that with somebody else for training purposes? And then if we get their permission, then we can use that, provided that they've enrolled. So I think that would be a really great training piece to hear, because we all have a different personality and a different energy. And, people will say to me, well, I could never say the things like you say. And I say, great. You don't want to, because you don't want to try to sound like me. You want to try to sound like you, but you can take the concepts of how I phrase it and put it into your, how Jennifer would say it, or how Rob would say it, or whatever. I find I'm a very auditory person. And so if I hear the cadence and the way people say things, and I hear it a couple of times, it sinks in. And I know I'm not the only one like that. And people will say, the more I hear you say it, the more it sinks in. So a recording would be great training for people who are auditory like that too.
Well, a lot of times if I'm training somebody, if I have the time and I've got them in a group, I will role play also, which is pretty much the same thing. And and I can take a newer person who would have questions and not know. It wouldn't be like somebody, I know, like Connie Jerome's been doing this for 9 years, and she already knows everything as far as that goes. But you take a new person and role play with them, and especially for newer people who are just starting to do three-ways, I role play or I will always practice. And I've mentioned this many times, but I will ask them. I remember doing this with Dorothy Dabney like years ago. I asked her, I said, okay, Dorothy, we're going to do some three-way phone calls here. And she's panicked. And I said, okay, so who could we call that, you won't care and they'll do it for you. And so she goes, well, my husband, and he lives in Florida. And she lived in Virginia. I was like, okay, there's an unusual situation. But now I know why. Anyway, so we called her husband and we did a three-way phone call. And she was so much more relaxed after that. So you can have them pick their mother, their aunt, their sister, whoever, and just say, you just call them and say, Mom, I wanted to do a three-way. Will you practice with me? Well, if she's a nice mom, she's going to say yes.
Yeah.
I know some that might not, but
Right.
So again, all of that is helping your team. And I'm supposing that you all, because like I said, you're all leaders here, that you've all done your three-ways and you know how, and you're not nervous about them anymore. But just help your team, because a three-way phone call isn't a normal thing for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're first getting people in, you forget that if you've done them. I mean, I've done them for years now, but I always remember it was very terrifying for me to do a three-way and then for me to do my first three-way. So
And it's awkward for people to be. I put my sister on a three-way call the other day to book a chiropractor's appointment. We're going to go to a chiropractor together on Tuesday, and I had the chiropractor on the line, and I brought my sister into the call to coordinate timing. And she's a very quirky person anyway. But when I hung up the phone, she says, "Why did you need me on the phone with him?" I said, "Because I can't book your life." But
yeah, really.
He felt kind of weird that I had brought her on a call where there was somebody else already on the call. So it's a foreign concept to people.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just giving you things that you can do in the last 10 days here. If you haven't thought about some of these things, if anybody has any other great ideas, because there's been some great ideas on the phone call, please mention them. But again, remember way back when you first started and what it was like and stuff, and help your people, and you might be able to get a few more people to bronze in your organization by the end of February, because again, you've got that nice bump at the end if they've got anybody in. If they have a few people in at least, which would help them get to bronze, they might have a higher volume at the end of the month. And the 28th is a Thursday, so they'd be bronze by Friday.
I would like to know if, in your opinion, whether for a three-way you want to be edified and you want the person to know always that you're there, or whether it's okay to say, by the way, I have my expert on the line. She just jumped on or called in or something, and I'd like to say a few words if you have a few minutes. Which way do you do it?
Well, when I was first starting, I wanted to be able to tell them. I'd go home, this was back in the day when I was serving. I'd send them a video, and I'd already said to them, I'm going to call you tomorrow with somebody on the phone. I'm in a learning phase, basically, and I'll have somebody on the phone with me that will be able to answer your questions. However, occasionally I have called people, because I didn't have time to book the three-ways always. So I would book Cindy for the 20 minutes that I had, and I'd call just whoever I could call that I'd already sent videos to. So say it was Benita. And Benita, do you have a few minutes? Yes, that's great, because I am lucky enough to have Cindy back on the phone with me. And I don't know how to answer your questions, but she does. She's been using the product a lot longer. And I'm going to learn while she's talking. So I want to introduce you to Cindy Buck. Now, I never had anybody get upset or be angry or anything with that, because I was doing them a service. I had somebody else on the line that could answer the questions, because I sincerely did not know how to answer the questions to begin with.
Sure.
What do you say now?
Pardon me?
What do you say now? Because you're not still in a learning phase.
Oh, they don't know that.
Okay. All right.
I'm just a brand new person to them if I've met them. So again, I always try to get somebody on the phone, and I've used Pearl before. I use whoever I think is, would resonate with the person, or whoever I can get a hold of that's free. Sure. And I just call and say, I introduced this to you, and I wanted you to have another person's opinion about it, because this person, and I could bring up, there's so many different ways you could bring somebody in, but I could say Pearl has got this amazing testimonial. She almost lost her eye, and because of these redox molecules, she didn't. She almost went blind and lost her eye, and I wanted her to tell you about it. Well, that's bringing in a testimonial and a three-way. So that's very powerful, and they're amazed because Pearl got battery acid in her eye. Most people don't have an eye after that. So, so you can do it that way too. You can just say, somebody's story, and if it's really good, you can bring them on, and they can be your three-way. There's all kinds of ways to do it.
Conversely, they don't know you're, not a beginner, so to speak. Conversely, like you were saying, they don't know a beginner is not an expert. So we can use somebody
Sure.
that's, that know. I mean, I was, just knowing a little bit about this is to know way more than most everybody.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you could use a downline if they're good, if they're halfway well spoken and stuff. I use crossline, I use downline, I use upline. My upline's pretty busy at this point. All of them. So I use anybody.
I just like to add that, people think that they have 3 or 4 people that they use for their three-ways. And if they feel like they're too busy or they don't have time, puppies, quit it. Sorry.
Cute puppy, by the way.
It's like having Tasmanian devils in the room. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people in this organization, and we can use any one of them for a three-way call. And everybody is so willing. I mean, I did 2 three-way calls last week with doctors that I'm not even in their line, with Dr. Michael and Dr. Silverman. Yep. And they do a fantastic job. And what you learn by listening to people that you're not ordinarily listening to do a three-way call is incredible.
Yep.
So step out of your comfort zone and ask somebody that you don't know very well to do a call with you. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've asked every one of my upline and I say, I just want to use you because I want to see what you say and I want to learn from you. So I've used all my upline, definitely. But now I use anybody. And you're right. People are very willing to do that. So, call them and once you've used them, they can use you. You can return the favor. So the pressure is on as far as Ascent goes. There's always an urgency for me. There's people out there that, one of the things that one of the doctors told me when I first got started is that I said, well, how come some people who get on this product get completely well and some people still die? That was one of my questions. And they virtually told me, they said, Debbie, your body gets to a certain point, if you've got a disease or if you've got cancer or something like that, where the damage has been so great, it doesn't matter what you would do, the body couldn't overcome the damage that's already been done. So so they told me, so the faster you can get this on somebody with cancer, with Lyme's, with Crohn's, with whatever's eating away at them, the faster you can get this on, the more chance you have of having your body heal itself from that. And so I'll just pass that on. I mean, to me, and that's what I say to people. I say, I want you to understand this as fast as possible, because if you're going to try this, the faster you get this on, the better off you will be, because there comes to a point where your body won't be able to recover. And I think that puts a sense of urgency in people who are sick, who want to know about this and are thinking about using it, because I say, don't wait. I mean, you've waited a month when you've got cancer. That's a month of more replicating cells that you've got to try to take care of. I don't know why people think they have all this time, but anyway, so I will say that. So there's a sense of urgency, not only in helping your people to the end of this month, but there's a sense of urgency in finding people that really need the product and stuff as far as their health goes. There could be a sense of urgency for the financial part, like there was for me. If I'd waited another month, I wouldn't have had a house. I mean, so you just never know. So think about that when you're talking to all the people you talk to, even if they're brand new. You don't know where they are. Some people would never
Deborah,
look.
can you share that quote that you say, Deborah? I think Deborah's got a great quote that she tells people. The one about the planning your next injury or accident.
Or illness. Yes. I just want people to understand what's available to them before they plan their next injury or accident. Because it makes them think. It just makes them think, because we don't. Yeah.
What I love about what you're saying, Deb, is just the truth. It's just the truth. And I'm reminded of Trish. She goes, "I'm in the business," or I don't know exactly how she says it, but I'm in the business of telling the truth about health things that will help. And there is a sense of urgency. I mean, there's really no time to waste. And if I carry that knowledge and that belief within myself, that's going to convey energetically. And the great thing about carrying that knowledge, it is the truth. I don't have to it's the simple truth. Thanks.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Russell.
Here's something that happened to me Saturday. Somebody put me in the direction of a fundraiser that was being done for a little girl who was sent home from City of Hope at 2.5 years old on hospice after probably almost a year of chemo and things like that for cancer. I went to the fundraiser, and there was a very good friend of the family there. And I opened up the conversation, and I said, I've been called to this gathering to share some information with this family. And I said, this is very urgent information. She says, well, the little girl is going to die. I said, she will eventually, but maybe not as soon as her family thinks. If you get this information to them and they understand the importance of what I've just shared with you.
Absolutely.
Bam.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people just don't know what they don't know. And they, it's been this way for years now. So that if you have 4-stage cancer in your child and there's nothing more they can do, you think they're going to die. Well, they don't have to now. And that's what you have to convey. They don't have to. They still can if it's too late, but you have no idea. Because I've been asked that by people, well, do you think it's too late for me? I don't know. I am not God. So
is your blood
I would
still running?
And make sure that you're doing everything you can.
When people ask me that question, is it too late? I ask them, is your blood still running at 98.6?
Well, true.
I have trouble remembering who I've met in different places and what they look like and all. And I know I've shared this with some people in the past, but one of the things that I have found helpful for me is I get their permission to do a selfie of the two of us. Like if I've met someone on the plane or whatever, and I then text them the picture with my contact information after, I have them put their contact information in my phone, and then I text them a copy of the picture with my contact information so that then they can remember who I am. And then that gives me a way to keep it all together. And where it says company, I don't necessarily let them see me do this, put a SIA, so that I'll know that that's what I've talked to them about, but I'll put something that tells me where I met them, whether it's on the plane or at church or whatever. So it gives me another bit of contact.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. That's a great idea of a selfie part of it. And that gives them your information when you text them.
And I always have to remember to start it with, hi, Cheryl, or whoever the person was, so that when I see that picture in my messages, I can go back and figure out the rest of their information. Because otherwise I may not remember still what their name.
No, that's great. Especially, if you travel a lot and you're seeing people on planes a lot and all over the place, that's a great way to do it.
I do that as well, and I make that same picture of the selfie of both of us, their contact picture in my contact field, so that if they send me a message out of the blue, if I lose contact with them and I see that my picture is with them, I know I spoke to them about a SIA. That's my visual clue of, you know, of a quick memory without me needing to go into Genie or without me needing to go in to find that, you know, scroll down to find the message and where it was. That's my very quick at a glance to remember, oh, this is somebody I talked to about ASEA. Oh, they've just reached out to me. So it's helpful for getting things quick.
Yeah.
I have the idea that it's easier for women to get selfies with strangers than it is for men to do that. I don't know. I know it's easier for women to meet people in bathrooms than it is for men to meet people.
That's true.
That's the difference in our bodily functions. You know? we're in private stalls.
Russell,
I can yell to Buffy in a private stall.
Also, going back, you know, to the idea, you know, we've heard of urgent care. This is urgent caring. You know.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
Russell, don't underestimate yourself. You're a teddy bear, and you meet people well, and you can have your picture taken with people, I'm sure, because
I'm not writing off the possibility.
right. You're not
Yes,
alone.
I think somebody like you it would probably be pretty easy for you to do a selfie. You and your
Before they even knew what happened. Absolutely.
genuineness and stuff like that. I mean, you know, it really depends, I think, on who you are and your energy, I think.
True. And Russell,
Or if you look like Robert Clooney or George Clooney or something like that, then you probably wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah. Russell, if you were to say, let's say we met on an airplane and you were to say, hey, Buffy, I'd love to reconnect with you and share this information with you, but just in case we get disconnected and, you know, I message you again out of the blue in a few months, I can send you this picture back to remind you I actually did meet you. I'm not just some random stranger. It'll remind you visually we were sitting on the airplane because you'll see the window. And even when I say that to people, they're like, oh, because I say life is fast paced for you and me. If we happen to lose touch, I'll send you this picture back to remind both of us of where we met. And usually I get a terrific response of, oh, what a great idea. So
yeah, it is a good idea.
Yeah, if you were to say that to me, you know, as a woman sitting next to you on the airplane, I wouldn't feel threatened by you saying it that way. You know, that would completely resonate with me. And I would say, oh, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Thanks, Buffy.
Hey, you're welcome.
Russell, especially if you preface this by saying, don't worry, I'm not a serial killer.
That's always good.
I'm not sure that's I'm not sure.
I wouldn't throw that out there.
It's too bad my daughter isn't on this tonight because Benita, that's what I say. You know, she says, oh, I met this guy on Shaper or whatever. Like, I'm like, oh my God, he's probably a serial killer. She's like, Mom. And I'm like, Jackie.
I have the same conversations with my granddaughter who is connected with some guy in the Ukraine and she wants to go see him.
Oh no. Oh my God.
Buffy,
yes.
can you tell us, I have an Android phone and I have a picture of two different people on there and I don't know how to put it onto their then I put people in my contacts as well as in Genie, you know, separately. But how do you put the picture? So I do have the picture of two different people. I don't know how to put it onto their ID picture for their contact.
Okay, I have an iPhone, and I haven't had an Android for years, but there's a way that you can go in and it'll say edit contact, and if you have an icon of just like a stick figure or something random that's their picture, you can either probably click on it or it may say edit photo or something like that. And when it says edit photo, it'll say use photo, upload file, or take picture on the spot. So play around with your settings and go in there and just practice on some random people, like practice on your sister or somebody, and practice putting in a photo that you can then, you know, play around with.
Verizon, it's a trip to Verizon for me.
That'll work too.
Another trip to Verizon for me.
There you go. But just realize they're going to try to sell you an upgraded phone.
Oh, I know.
My son used to work for Verizon.
I probably need one at this point, actually. I'm afraid.
Hey, Joyce, it's real easy. Bring up your contact name, and next to when you click on the pencil for edit, where the picture would be, there's a little icon of a camera. Just click that and then you can pick your picture.
Right.
The edit part.
Go to your contact first, where you
Right.
want
And
to
then
add the
it says
picture.
add photo, right?
And then click on the pencil, because that's what means you can edit it.
Okay, the edit pencil, and then there might be a camera icon also.
Yep, then it brings up a field that has just the basic head and shoulders. And then on that, at least on mine, is a little camera emblem. Click on that and it allows you, it says take photo, choose photo, or select from cloud.
Oh, take, choose, or select. Oh, okay, okay.
Mine just says add photo.
Oh, okay. I'll look for that.
Yeah, it says, then it brings up take photo or choose photo.
Okay, great.
Thanks so much, Deb.
All right, Russell, thank you so much. Are there
Thanks,
any other
Deb.
questions at all? No?
Good
Okay.
seeing you all. Thanks for the call.
Yes, Callie.
Thanks, Deb.
I won't
Thanks,
see you at
everybody.
Ascent, unfortunately, but we'll see you at convention probably.
All right. Okay.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right. You're very welcome.
Have a good day, everyone.